Hey everybody, I have my nephew Greydon here today, and he is a real chef. I mean, he can teach us all kinds of stuff. He has great recipes. He's very creative. He surprised us and came in, so we are cooking and we're going to make fajitas, and I'm just going to sit back and let him do it and teach us, and if he tells me to get him something, I'm going to get it. So here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. We'll cheers together.
So step one for fajitas, what we got here is skirt steak. This is Angus choice skirt steak here. You can see once we unravel it, we got some stuff we're going to have to work on here on this meat before we can really go any further here. So first step is to get this all laid out, figure out what we need to do to trim it, and we'll make up a spice mixture here. This is where I look for
What do you need?
One of these, yep. Just to do this. So first step with your skirt steak is going to be to trim off all the silver skin, all of this stuff here. Pretty much inedible, it's going to be tough, nobody really wants to eat this. So the first step is to get this removed somehow. What I would recommend is either a boning knife or a fillet knife, something with this kind of shape on it so you can actually get under this stuff and work to one direction. So you can see that the grain on this meat runs this way, so we're going to work perpendicular against that so we're not tearing this up too bad. And this really isn't too hard. We're just going to try to get under it on one side here. Try not to lose much meat here, but we do want to get all of this membrane off.
Everybody always thinks that's so hard to do. Really, if you have a sharp knife, it's not too hard.
So it comes off in little chunks like this, and this is fine. Just set it off to the side so that we have somewhere to put it later.
We're going to have everybody over today, all the family, and he's going to make the Mexican rice, and we've got the pico de gallo made, and we're making borracho beans. So we have a full meal plan for everybody.
So there's really no right or wrong way to do this. Just try to get it all off. If you lose a little bit of meat, again, no big deal there.
You don't want to lose too much meat, though, do you?
We'll set this to the side for now so we have more room to work here.
Now, Greydon went to school to be a chef, so he has all kinds of tips and tricks that us regular people don't have.
And the trick to this is just to keep the knife flat. You see how it's resting against the meat. In this case, it doesn't really matter which direction you work. You just want to hold the piece that you're cutting against off to the side so your blade can continue to do all the work for you here.
That looks really easy.
When you get into these larger chunks of fat, you can remove this as well. It would grill off, but sometimes it's so stuck to the silver skin that you want to remove it anyway.
So that was the fat.
You can see how it's kind of intertwined here.
Yeah.
The silver skin is connected to that. So
yeah,
it's fine to leave the fat on there, but you do want to get all that membrane off.
Now, if you leave it on, what happens?
It's tough, and when you go to cut it, it won't cut very well. When people are chewing on it, it's going to get all caught in their teeth. It's just not a good look.
And nobody wants that.
Nope. Also, your spice mixture that we'll rub on this later would be coming back off it because it's not set into the meat tissue. So this will help it actually taste better too, not just a texture thing.
So he's got all the meat ready now, and we're going to make a spice mixture, or Greydon's going to make the spice mixture, because that's what gives the meat the flavor, and that's what sets it apart. It sets your meal apart from anything else, the spices. That's what's important. So he's going to show you the spices that he mixes together and how he puts it on the meat.
So we're going to make enough to rub all this down. We're working on kind of a large portion here today, but it's not going to change the ratio of what we're doing. But what you're going to need here, you're going to need some paprika, some coriander, garlic powder. Probably won't need the black pepper, but we'll need the cumin. This is cayenne, and a little bit of oregano here. So What I like to do is start with the paprika because this really sets the tone for how much volume we're going to be using here. So this is going to be about probably 25 to 30% of the overall mixture volume. So I usually start with the paprika just so we know how much we're making here. So that was roughly about half of this container here. Right about there, so.
Wow, I would have never guessed that much. I always put like a little bit of paprika on everything I do.
We're gonna really rub this down. It's gonna char up really nicely on the grill. That's part of what this flavor profile is about, is actually kind of burning these spices once they're on the meat. What I'm doing here is just kind of breaking this up before we open this, so it'll pour out nicely. And really we're looking for about like a 1-to-1 ratio with the coriander and the paprika. So it's pretty easy to do in layers. You can just kind of dump it on top of each other and you can see where your progress is at. Same thing with the cumin.
All those three things are basically the Mexican flavors that you use. Chili powder would be the only other thing, but you don't put that on there, do you?
Well, these are the components to chili powder.
Oh.
Yeah, for the most part. For the garlic powder, you can see how I'm doing it in a stripe here. About half as much as we were doing on the other stuff. With the cayenne, you probably want to do even half of what you just did with the garlic, because that's going to be pretty hot. It's probably about as hot as we want to go here. And then with the oregano, go ahead and fill out the rest of that bowl. And once you get to this point, now we're going to go ahead and hit it with some salt, and that's going to make up probably... remember, we're working with beef, and it's going to be grilled here, so don't be shy on the salt. It'll be all right. So once again, we're going to kind of cover all that. So this is really our ratio of the mixture here. We're going to go ahead and toss it up. See what kind of color we have. I want it to look somewhere around like an orangey red. You'll see the flakes of the oregano leaves in there still, but it shouldn't be quite as orange as a Kansas City rub, but it should be...
Would you call this a
Something like
Texas
that.
rub?
I don't know what this is. That's a good question.
Because there is a difference.
What do you think?
Whenever you eat like the Texas barbecue, I know this isn't barbecue, but even with the Tex-Mex flavors versus
Right.
eating it somewhere else.
I would do it a little spicier if it was just me, but I know we're serving some other folks that might not enjoy that, so this is about where we probably want it to be. So at this point, what we want to do is take our meat that we've already prepared here, trimmed it up nicely. We'll set it back out like this. What I like to do is stretch this out. So notice that this is the side that we were working a minute ago to trim all this up. So we're going to have exposed, I call them shards of meat, because it's little kind of fragmented chunks like this. So really the trick is to spread it like this, kind of pull on it, open some of that up. And what that allows us to do is take this, get a nice coating on it like so. What we'll do is actually push. What I'm doing is pulling away like this, so it's actually rubbing the mixture into the little shards of meat there.
And I will say this is skirt steak, and when we went to buy it, they didn't have any out, and so we actually asked the butcher for it, and he got it for us. So you may have to do that.
And perfectly okay to stack it here if you don't have enough room.
Now, do you do it on both sides or just one
Yes,
side?
both sides. I'm just trying to not make a huge mess here. So usually what I'll do is try to flip this over. And because you're going to have some extra that falls off of this side, I like to sandwich it because that's all free so far.
Yeah,
So
heck yeah.
do that. Come back through with our mixture here. Same thing on this side. Now the trick here is to kind of let this set while we're preparing the rest of our stuff here. It'll start to soak into the meat a little bit more. The salt will actually kind of perform a brine action, so it will start to get into the meat a little bit deeper than if you just slap this on right before the grill.
So how long do you let it set normally?
Pretty much, we're just going to go as fast as we can to get to the rest of these steps, and by that point it'll be all right. But we'll also add some oil to this right before we grill it so that this stuff isn't just charred straight off.
Okay. So a lot of times people put the oil on and then put their seasoning on, like to hold it. It's better to do it this way.
I think so, because if you put the oil, if you mix the salt with the oil, because there's salt in this mixture, it won't penetrate into the meat. So we do want some of that action to happen before we start to grill it, just because it'll be a deeper flavor. Mm-hmm. But doing it this way, it'll actually kind of get in there and stick to it a little bit better, and it won't flare up as hard as it would if we just made a paste with some oil, because that would come right off the meat and then start a fire on the grill.
Okay,
Something we don't want here. So we'll take this and just set it off to the side here. If we have any extra, I just try to find a spot where you can stamp it on the meat. Yep, and just, obviously we don't want to waste that flavor. Whatever's left, we can kind of toss on the meat. At this point, we want to wash our station, wash our knives, wash our hands, because we worked with some raw stuff, and we'll move on from here.
Okay, so now we're making the Mexican rice. And he's getting ready to chop the onion that goes in it, and here we go.
So for rice, what we want to do is chop this onion up pretty fine. So we're starting with the half an onion, because we got one left over here. What I think the easiest thing to do here is, I'm right-handed, so obviously I'll go this way, but imagine spokes on a bicycle wheel. We want to aim kind of at the center, and we're coming in at a diagonal here, like this. We really only need about a quarter of an onion here. So from here, fine dice the onion, and this will go into a hot pan with some canola oil. We don't really want much flavor from the oil in this case, so we're just going to use a pretty neutral one. That's really the only... You could use butter, you could use olive oil if you want, but really we don't need any flavor from this. We're just going to saute it. So we've got our hot pan that we're going to put our rice in, about that much onion here. Just enough oil to get this going. And I'm going to crank this up to medium-high heat and let this go for a minute. I'm looking for a certain smell here, but we're also going to put some seasoning into this to make the rice a little pop.
So so for you, it's the scent when it gets to the right scent.
That's how I go by it. I mean, we'll see the color. It'll be close to translucent, but the idea is that we're actually going to be putting rice in here too, so you don't want to overcook these onions. Yeah. But right now we're just letting them, right now they're sweating, but we're looking for a saute. So once they hit a saute where we're actually getting some sear, we're going to add a little bit of spice to it.
Okay. And what spices do you add?
In this case, just paprika, so same stuff we were using a minute ago. Really don't need much here. This is really just to color the rice. So between the paprika and the tomatoes that we're going to use for this rice, that's where the red flavor and the color is going to come from. Really, the rice obviously is kind of backseat to the rest of the dish here. So.
Okay.
So now we got this rolling a little hotter here. Pan's up to temp. Go ahead and stir in the paprika with these onions here. So you can see these onions are not quite translucent. They're a little bit cooked compared to opaque. But at this point in time, what we want to do is actually add the rice, and we're going to saute the rice in with this oil here. This is something that's kind of a, peel-off style, I guess would be the right word for it. But, working in kitchens, this is a technique that I've picked up from other folks that know better than I do.
So in layman's terms, I mean, like, how much rice is that you're putting in?
Oh, that's about that much. And I'll show you how to measure the water. It doesn't matter how much rice you put in. It's a ratio kind of thing. So I'll show you how to come up with what that ratio will look like here in a minute.
Okay.
It'll be easy. But at this point, what we want to do is stir this in, and we're actually going to toast this rice, and we're going to keep stirring this over medium-high heat until we can actually smell the rice and it gets a little bit brown.
It smells delicious already. That onion. So do you let the rice just like brown a little bit?
I guess the right word is like we're toasting this right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but we want to keep stirring it because obviously the stuff on the bottom is going to start to cook a little faster, so we'll keep it in motion. And you'll notice that some of these little pieces of rice will actually start to change from translucent or pearly to opaque or to white, and some of them will get toasted. We're not looking for a uniform here, really just we're looking for a little bit of color and a little bit of flavor out of it.
Okay, cool. So do you add jalapenos to it too?
I do, if it's just for me, but not everybody enjoys that, so I'll leave those off for this time. All right, so we've been stirring this over medium-high heat for about, 6-7 minutes or so. You can see that the color is starting to change here. We have some bits that are a little bit darker than others. There are some spots where some of the onions got burned. That's okay. Don't worry. It's part of the flavor, part of the fun here. So once we get this to that point, if you listen close enough, you can actually hear it sauteing.
And it smells delicious.
And you can smell the difference. It should smell kind of nutty. That's the roast actually toasting. So rice actually toasting. So the next step here, I kind of make a little spot in the middle where the pan is exposed. I've got the rice up on the walls of the pan. The reason for that is the next thing we're going to do is add a can of diced tomatoes here. So this will be some of the liquid that we're using, but also we want those tomatoes in there for flavor. The reason to add this first is because tomatoes are acidic. It's going to help to actually deglaze the pan here and soak up some of the flavor that's already stuck to the bottom. So first step, get this in there. What we want to do is just kind of let all that juice run out of the tomatoes for a second and soak up the bottom of that pan. And kind of work it in. Now, for the rest of our liquid here that we're going to add to the rice, what I've got here is some chicken stock. This is actually a little bit thick, so we're going to add some water to this as well. What we're looking for here.
How much was that though in chicken stock?
Well, this was about, this is a pint right here, right? So, but what we want is 1 knuckle of distance between the top of the water and the bottom of the rice. So we're not quite there yet. So we want to add just a little bit more water to it. So I'm just going to use the same container, dump a little bit more in there, stir it up, let the rice settle back out. What we're looking for again, about right there. So, not yet. So at this point, what we want to do, throw a lid on it, reduce it down to about medium-low, and we're just going to let this go for a while we do the rest of our stuff here.
So now we're making the guacamole. We're just showing you every bit of the whole meal. So he's cutting the avocados up now for our guacamole. Is that one good?
Well, it's on the border. We'll see.
That's not as easy as it looks. I've tried that. They don't come out that easy for me.
And from here, what we want to do is just kind of score the inside of these. Be just careful not to cut your hand when you're doing this. Just go back and forth like this. What this does is kind of pre-prepare the shape of the bits of avocado when it goes in, because we're going to mix this up into a guacamole. So we want to score all this up. And what we'll do is take a spoon and start to scoop it out. But
spoon? Now we're going to spoon it into here.
Let's spoon it into the bowl, and then we'll see. I'll show you what we're going to do with that blender here in a second. So a trick to do right now, because we're going to serve this a little bit later, is to go ahead and squeeze some lime juice over all this avocado here. Next thing we're going to do is chop up some jalapenos too. This is just a rough chop. What we're fixing to do here is throw this into the blender. Normally I would use a food processor. We don't have one here, but that's all right. We're going to take all this. Here's our little blender thing. This is going in here. Where's the top for that? I'll let you do that while I rinse my hands off here.
So go ahead and get this going.
Yeah, we don't need it blended. We just need it kind of, what we're aiming here is a rough chop. All right, let's see. We'll tamp that down a little bit. So that's probably about what we want there. So it's a fine chop on all this stuff. We want a little bit of juice in there. The traditional method to do this is with a molcajete or a mortar and pestle, but we're going to skip that and go faster here. So this is all going straight into our avocado bowl here. And this is going to get tossed up with a spoon and a little bit more salt and lime.
You're going to salt it, Otto. I don't know. Oh, wait, that's enough. You can put another lime in it. There you go.
Here we go.
Get all of it squeezed. Sit down.
Oh, careful. Looking good. Here, I'll get the last little bit here. It's probably kind of tough.
Yeah.
Flip this around. You get on your face a little bit. And really what we want to do is bring this all together. If you have a potato masher, now's the time to pull it out and start whacking on it.
We got one.
Kind of get this to the right consistency.
Here, Otto.
Just go straight down on it. There you go. Yeah, Jody, like you said, we want kind of a coarse texture here. We don't want it all completely into
like
a
that.
paste. I think that looks good. We'll go ahead and put this into a bowl.
Like lime.
Is that sour?
I can't eat limes like that.
And actually, before we put this into a bowl, now's a good time to taste it. I don't know if we have a chip around here.
I'll taste it with a chip.
Otto's fixated on the lime here.
Yeah. As Otto says.
You give it a thumbs up? What do you think? All right.
Okay, so now you can't have fajitas without red peppers and onions. So he's going to show us, and Otto and I are going to watch his technique of getting it all cut up. We're getting closer to the grill time.
So we got some onions, some peppers here. Also got some jalapenos I'm going to throw in the mix with everything. We'll start with our onions. First thing to do is get the ends off of them. Prepare them into a flat little piece like this. It'll make it easier to cut here in a minute. Losing a little bit extra there. You can see I'm not chopping all the way through this whenever I get into it. I'm setting it down and I'm peeling it because we want that little piece to come off there because we're going to peel the rest of this off here in a second. So when you do it like that,
Peel it?
yeah, you want to peel it? I'll show you how. So you want to take it like this and get all the skin on the outside off.
Okay.
Does that work?
You
All
do
right.
that. I'll get these out of the way.
Ooh.
Oops, I'll throw the trash. I'll throw the trash away.
All right.
Good job, Otto. You got a little bit more. Keep doing it, I'll pick it up.
And when you peel onions, you want to go ahead and wipe off all the skins here because that'll make its way back in the food before you know it. And this is a trick I learned from some Cajun guys. What you want to do is aim for right here on the edge of this bell pepper like so. Basically right on that line there. What this is going to do, come straight down. See how we dodged all of those seeds there? We're just going to peel this thing wide open and we're not going to get any of that white stuff on there. So this comes all the way
That's
off in one
cool.
piece. You can hit that.
I always do it right down the middle. That's pretty cool.
Now you've got a fillet to work with. This makes it a little bit easier, a little bit faster.
You taught your mom all these tricks?
I think she's seen this. I'm not sure.
It's pretty cool, huh? Easy way to do it.
And now what we're going to do is start chopping into fajita-sized strips. We're going to aim for the center. We're going to come in on diagonals like this. Once you get to the top, it should be about center. If you want, you can flip it over. Keep going the same way. If you got any peppers that are still kind of stuck to each other, now's the time to go ahead and pull them apart. They'll probably come apart in the bowl or toss them here in a second, but what I like to do now, before we move on, is to add a little bit of salt, because we're going to need this in a minute anyway. All of this is going to go into a bowl.
What are we making?
We're making fajitas. These are the vegetables for the fajitas. Do you like fajitas? I've learned today that a glass cutting board is not what you're supposed to have. I will be getting another one.
All of this is going to go straight into here. This is just going to hang out until we get ready to saute everything right at the end.
Okay. So do people usually, when they call for cannoli oil, is it because it's less flavor or does it get hotter? I mean, because you see that a lot, and I always...
It's it's less flavor and it's a little bit hotter. So.
Okay.
See if I can pull the same thing off here with these jalapenos as we did with the red peppers. Trying to dodge all of those seeds. Really, this is what we should end up with. And you've got these nice little fillet flats here. We're going to do the same thing we did with the red bell peppers. I like to do some jalapenos in there just for a little bit of spice and also just to mix up the color a little bit.
Okay.
And this is our fajita veg that we're going to saute once we get our meat on the grill. So it's been about 40 minutes now. Our rice is getting there. What we're going to do now is go ahead and fire up a pan so we can do our veggies here. We've got the grill running as well. Maybe we'll try another one here.
They should
We've got the grill going as well, so at this point in time, what we want to do is...
You gotta start it with...
There we go, all right. So we're gonna let this preheat. Our rice is looking just about on time here. So what we want to do is give it a little fluff and make sure we're there. This is looking perfect to me. That's what we want to see for this. This can set to the side. We'll go ahead and turn the burner off. Throw the lid back on this. That can set till we're good to serve here. So we'll let this preheat while we go ahead and throw some meat on the grill. When we come back in, we're gonna throw our veggies in this, and it'll all be done about the same time here. So what we're gonna do now is put some oil on our meat. It's been setting in. You can see how we've actually got some moisture going on here. That means that the salt is actually drawing out some of that juice from the meat. That's what we wanna see. Our crust is kind of already set on there with our seasoning. So what we're gonna do now is introduce a little bit of oil. We just wanna drizzle it over this, and I'm gonna kind of flip it over as we go here. So if you want to start us off with just a little stripe down the top here.
Like just a little?
Just a little drizzle is all we really need. Maybe a little more.
A little bit on that side?
Yeah, you can actually overflow. It'll be all right. I'll just flip it over. There we go.
Okay.
So what we'll do now is just kind of turn this. And we just want enough of the oil on here to coat it so that when we actually slap it on the grill, we can get a good set of grill marks on it. There we go. That'll work. And do another one there. Yep. Perfect. Yeah. That will work.
Don't need any on the last one, huh?
And our grill has been on for about 20 minutes now, so it is nice and ripping hot. We're going to take this outside and toss it on there. So right here on this ripping hot grill, what I'm going to do real quick is just go ahead and wipe off this ash and this crud here, just so we have a clean surface to work on. We are set to high. This is saying about 800 degrees. I don't know if I trust that, but hot enough. We'll go with that. Pick a side. This is our hot side. This is our low side now. And we're going to set our meat over here on a diagonal. And we're going to let this sear for about 3 minutes per side. When we come back, we're going to quarter turn it and flip it.
Okay, and it's searing on the low side.
Yeah. The reason for searing on the low side here, or putting our meat on the low side, is because we don't want flames coming up. When this oil drips off, it would start a fire. So we're gonna leave this side hot, this side low, and let this cook without flaming it.
Okay.
All right, so we just threw our meat on the grill. The meat is searing currently. We've got a ripping hot cast iron skillet right here. Here's our fajita veg. It's already got salt on it. This oil is gonna burn really fast, so time is of the essence here. We'll throw this in. Don't overcrowd the pan. You don't wanna go more than halfway up the wall, because you want to get a nice sear on this veg. While this is going, we're going to leave it here and not turn it until we turn the meat and come back inside. So that's kind of your timing here. You want this stuff to actually get char marks on it, not just turn into slop because you turn it too much.
Oh. That one.
So we're looking for a little bit of char in here. We're starting to smell it. It's starting to get there. I'm going to toss it around a little bit. What we're looking to see is if anything's going to stick to the bottom here. Those sorts of grill marks on that little piece of onion there, that's what we're looking for here. So we're gonna let this kind of sit right in the same spot it has been. Let it maybe just set for a little bit longer and keep searing. So we're seeing some char on the edges of the meat here. That's a good sign. We're gonna pick it up. Just go ahead and give it a quarter turn. Since this is now the cold side, we'll move it over here so it keeps searing. When you see that smoke coming off the meat, that's a good sign.
So you just do it one side at a time?
Well, so what I did was just so it was this way, and now it's this way.
Oh, okay.
And then when we get done with it, we're going to flip it over like this, and then we'll come back over here too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. So it's been going for a while. Now we got that good sear mark on the bottom of these onions. Now's a good time to go ahead and just stir it all around. It's got some of it stuck to the bottom. That's okay. Don't worry about that. That's what we want.
So you want to make sure it's seared before you start moving them around.
This is what it looks like when it comes out of a restaurant, right?
Right.
You want that blackened portion. That's part of the flavor too.
Right.
So that's why you get that roasted pepper flavor in there, and that really deep, rich onion flavor that comes out of it as well. So the trick is just to not shake it around or move it too much. I mean, you just kind of want to re-mix it and then let it sear again. And then basically when the meat's done, this will be right about the same time. So we're ready to flip this one again. We've got some moisture on top here, so when this gets flipped, it's gonna flare up a little bit. That's all right, don't worry about it. But those nice char marks, that's what we're looking for. And really we want this to go to about a medium rare. So for those of you that cook with a thermometer, that's about 115 to 120. You wanna pull it off at about 120 and then let it rest. It'll carry over to about a medium rare, but this shouldn't be served well done. All right, so our meat's about done. We got that sizzle going on top. This looks about medium rare to me. Feels like we're about there. So we're gonna go ahead and break the tongs. We're gonna go ahead and pull this off. Next thing we're gonna do is let this rest for about 5 minutes before we cut it up for service here. All right, so our meat's done, and we're just getting ready to pull these off. They've got that nice char on it. This is the restaurant look that we want. This is kind of how it looks when it hits the table. Obviously, it's got that sizzle to it still, so we'll go ahead and cut this. Where's our towel?
Right
I'm going
here.
to sneak past you here. We can go ahead and dump this in whatever container we're going to serve from here. And if you got more vegetables to do, we can just reuse the same pan because it's already hot and keep rolling here. All right, so our meat's been resting for about 5 minutes. We're still hoping for about a medium rare here, so it's about ready to cut into this without having all the juice run out. So the first thing to do is, oh, a little bit more done than we wanted, but that's all right. You can cut it into lengths that will be the strips that you want to serve, and then we're gonna go against the grain. That's imperative in this case, and that's what you want right there. That's why we spent so much time trimming up that meat and getting it just right. So it look like this when it's done. This is what you're looking for to serve. Cut it into little pieces like this, about the same size as you did the onions and the peppers. And this is about ready to eat. You want to taste it real quick?
Yes, I do.
Let's try it.
Here. Oops, go for it.
Cheers. What do you think?
Excellent.
Will it work?
Very good. He is the best. Everybody's getting ready to come in for our fajita dinner. We've got it all set up, our guacamole, our pico de gallo, our vegetables. We have borracho beans that we haven't, well, that's for another day. But thank you for watching. Be sure and subscribe and hit those likes, and we'll get Greydon to come back and show us some more tricks. He's really good.
I can't wait.
Bye.